So here I have my basic slider crank mechanism again, and I'm going to try and make an engineering drawing of this red crank shown here. So I'll go to File, New, I'll create a drawing, choose one of the default templates, I'll browse for the part to insert, choose the file of the crank, open. I'll go start off showing a single view. Down in the options for display style, I want to show the hidden feature lines. So I'll choose that box. Now I'll place the views on the sheet. There's one, there's two, and I'll put in an isometric as well. Press the check mark here, or the check mark over here to accept. Now you notice when I brought this part in, this crank here is on an angle. I want this to be vertical, so the line connecting these two holes here, I want that to be vertical in my engineering drawing. To do this, I'll have to go and realign the part in the assembly. So I'll go back to the assembly, and here in the assembly, if I expand the crank in the feature tree, you can see that this right plane here is at an angle to the crank. So the right plane of the crank is at an angle to the actual link here. So I'll change this. I know this crank is based on the geometry of a master sketch. So I'll go View. I'll show the sketches here so I can see the master sketch. This line here is a line in the master sketch that defines the slider crank mechanism. So I'll choose that line, and I'll select this right plane of the crank, and I'll mate them together so that the right plane is coincident with that line of the master sketch. I'll accept this mate, and I'll hide the sketches again so it's more clear to see. Now here you can see the right plane of that part goes right through the center of those two holes. Now if this geometry of the crank was not fully defined by the master sketch, you would have seen some of these lines and curves of the crank have moved, and you'd have to go back and edit the crank part, look at the extrude, edit the sketch, and fix up this sketch to get back to the geometry you want. But since I've properly defined this part based on a sketch over here that's in the master, I don't have to go and do that. So I'll go to File, and I'll save everything right now. It's asking me to save the crank drawing because I haven't saved that yet, and I'll certainly do that. Now I'll go back to the drawing, And you can see now back at the drawing, this crank here is vertically aligned, now that I've adjusted the part.